Hello, Geico Gecko? Would you give me half $500 million? No? That is outrageous. I demand to speak to your caveman.
When Trump comes to mind, you probably envision a wealthy man, perhaps even a billionaire. Magazines like Forbes often tout him as one of the richest individuals on Earth. He also tends to boast about his wealth excessively, possibly even more than necessary.
Good. Here's the good news. I'm very rich. I don't need anybody's money. It's nice. I'm really rich.
I'm the most successful person ever to run.
Fortunately, I'm very rich. So I have a total net worth. And now with the increase, it'll be well over $10 billion. I'm not doing that to brag, because you know what? I don't have to brag.
It's quite bothersome when someone constantly boasts about their wealth, but what's even worse is when it's a complete fabrication. This is the case with Trump, who claims to have a vast fortune, yet in reality, he has no money at all. It's not surprising that he's a pathological liar, as he hasn't said anything truthful in ages. What's truly astounding is that he can't even afford the bail for one of his fraud cases, which amounts to a whopping $500 million. He's desperately trying to avoid going to prison, yet he can't even come up with the funds to get himself out. He stated that he has billions of dollars to his name, including $500 million in cash alone, but it's clear that he's lying. So where has all that money gone? It's a mystery that remains unsolved. As Stephen Colbert recently pointed out on his show, Trump is broke as a joke.
No, he doesn't have the cash. Aha. Caught you now. He's not a real rich guy, he just plays one on TV. Donald Trump has $1 billion the same way Patrick Stewart has a spaceship.
Colbert can mock Trump without fear of legal backlash because Trump lacks the financial resources to sue for defamation. Trump's current financial state is such that anyone can criticize him freely. Today is our chance to demonstrate this. First, let us examine how much money Trump has, or at least how much he professes to possess or fantasizes about having. It is commonly believed that Trump's net worth is approximately $7. Not only is he penniless, but a judge in the New York Appeals Court has ordered the former president to provide bail worth the staggering sum of $454 million to halt the enforcement of the existing judgment against him. Trump's legal team maintains that he cannot afford to post bail, leaving him in a hopeless predicament.
Thank you for having me. He can't really get one because he's not a good credit risk. He hasn't been a good credit risk for a very long time. During the 90s, 6 or so of his companies went bankrupt, so that
is the long-awaited moment of Trump facing the consequences finally approaching.
Even though on Friday, Trump said he has $500 million in cash, undercutting his lawyer's claims. That's like if OJ tried to put on the glove and said, "This doesn't fit, but I do love stabbing. Stab, stab, stabbity, stab. Stabbity, stab."
He couldn't resist intensifying his criticism due to this situation. However, it may appear implausible. How can Trump be completely bankrupt and unable to pay anything? What about his banks and loans? These are valid inquiries. As it turns out, he was denied funding from every source, which is unsurprising to us and Stephen Colbert.
Hello, Geico Gecko? Would you give me $500 million? No? That is outrageous. I demand to speak to your caveman. No, I've already tried all the banks. Tyra, Azalea, Special Agent Cody. Hello? And Click.
It has been reported that Trump has reached out to at least 30 companies, if not more, to request financial support for his bail. Trump and his legal team had until March 25th to come up with the necessary funds to secure bail for a multi-million-dollar judgment. Despite knowing that he couldn't gather the money in time, Trump attempted to request a lower bail or no bail at all, claiming that he'd suffer irreversible harm if forced to sell his properties. This request is nonsensical, as we all know he won't win his appeal. If Trump can't secure the bond, things won't look good for him. Officials will restrict any legal maneuvers and tie his hands to prevent him from pulling any tricks. Then, they'll go after his cash. Experts suggest that the first move would be to seize his bank accounts to take money from Trump's accounts. State prosecutors will need to approach the sheriff of New York City to proceed. While the notion of obtaining a warrant to seize Trump's bank accounts seems like a thrilling prospect, it's important to consider the difficulties that come with seizing assets on a larger scale, such as buildings and companies. The process of transferring ownership of 500 corporations and LLCs to the sheriff for public auction is a lengthy one, and only then can they hope to satisfy the judgment or retrieve the $455 million owed. Although this may seem like a nightmare, it is entirely possible. As for Trump, it appears he has no way to circumvent this predicament.
Americans, today was supposed to be a special day. A day that Donald Trump had to either fork over $464 million
for a bond in his New York fraud case, or Attorney General Letitia James was going to grab him by the property. But then, this morning, a New York appeals court cut Trump's bond to $175 million.
Just in time, Donald Trump avoided a harsh verdict on Monday when a New York court allowed him to post a $175 million bail, thus postponing the execution of his fraud sentence. The court gave Trump a deadline of 10 days to find the necessary amount. If he manages to do so within this time frame, his assets will be safeguarded, and he will remain out of reach. Trump's recent win was an unexpected but crucial victory for him, as it prevented him from facing an imminent financial disaster. Prior to this ruling, Trump had been on the verge of a financial catastrophe, putting his bank accounts and companies at risk. It was a close call, but as always, Trump managed to come out on top.
Every time it seems like consequences of any kind are closing in, he gets away with it. Who let this guy wish for more wishes? Especially after how racist he was to the genie.
Despite Colbert's disappointment, he managed to keep his sense of humor intact and continued to roast Trump throughout the night.
The pundits are saying the court handed Trump a lifeline. Well, that makes sense. By law, you have to throw someone a lifeline when they look that much like a waterlogged corpse. Trump, of course, has said many, many times he could pay this $500 million bond because he's really rich. Can we fact check that, Jim?
I'm really rich.
There you go.
Despite Trump being granted a reduced bail, it's fortunate considering the lengths he may have gone to obtain the necessary funds. Given his past statements, it's reasonable to assume that the judge made the correct decision in reducing the bail. After all, who knows what kind of trouble Trump could have caused if he resorted to accepting money from foreign governments to pay for his legal expenses.
I don't know. I mean, you could, I don't know. But Russia, if you're listening, maybe you know if it's legal. Could you write the answer down on 500 million pieces of paper and have it put in my account?
The issue of bail surrounding the former President Donald Trump's financial woes is certainly a mixed bag of emotions. Some may find it humorous, while others may feel a sense of sadness for the man who once held the highest office in the land. Regardless of how one feels about the situation, it's important to set it aside for the moment and focus on the upcoming presidential elections. As a contender for the presidency, one can only imagine what Trump's thoughts are on how his past financial troubles will impact his chances. His multiple bankruptcies, convictions, and now the hefty bail that he must pay all cast a shadow over his candidacy. Will voters be able to look past these issues and focus on his policies, or will they be too distracted by his personal shortcomings? It's possible that we may see late-night talk show hosts like Stephen Colbert offering up their witty takes on the matter. Colbert, who has made a name for himself by poking fun at politicians and their missteps, is sure to give Trump a good ribbing. But while the jokes may bring a chuckle or two, they also highlight the seriousness of the situation. The presidency is no laughing matter, and voters must carefully consider the character and integrity of those seeking the office. In the end, the decision on who to vote for will be left up to the American people. It is up to them to decide whether they want a leader with a checkered past or someone who can bring a fresh perspective to the Oval Office. Whatever the outcome, it's important to remember that democracy is a privilege and a responsibility, and one that should never be taken for granted.
The guiltier he is, the more the crowd loves him. It's never a great sign when your press conference answers could just as easily be cackled by the Joker.
It is no secret that Donald Trump has always been a controversial figure, and his recent statements are no exception. Even though some may be shocked by his words, it is important to remember that they are consistent with his past behavior. From his divisive rhetoric to his questionable business practices, Trump has always been a polarizing figure in the public eye. However, it is not just his words that are causing concern. Trump's actions, or lack thereof, are also a cause for worry. Despite numerous warnings and pleas from health experts, he continues to downplay the severity of the COVID-19 pandemic and refuses to take appropriate action to protect the American people. But as the saying goes, what goes up must come down. Trump's inevitable downfall seems to be approaching rapidly, and we will continue to report on it as it unfolds. Whether it is due to his numerous legal troubles or his inability to effectively govern, the end of his presidency seems to be in sight. If his appeal fails, which seems likely, bankruptcy may be his only option. corruption. It is no secret that Trump has a history of financial troubles, and his reluctance to acknowledge them may finally catch up with him. Despite his wealth and power, he is not immune to the consequences of his actions. Furthermore, Trump's reputation has been irreparably damaged by his conviction for fraud. This is a fact that he cannot deny. No matter how hard he tries to spin the narrative, his legacy will forever be tarnished by this stain on his record. In conclusion, it is clear that Trump's time in the spotlight is coming to an end. The American people deserve better than a president who prioritizes his own interests over the needs of the nation. As we continue to report on his downfall, we must remain vigilant and hold our leaders accountable for their actions. Share your opinions with us in the comment section, and we'll catch you in the next video.
We'll be right back.